What's good, my people? Welcome into Buckets Action Network's nightly live stream at 11 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and Fridays. Make sure you Thursdays. What day is it, Jay Money, on the live stream? Tuesday,
Mondays and Thursdays, if I'm not
Mondays
mistaken.
and Thursdays. See, Jay Money always taking care of you, man. Yeah, Jay Money always got my back. Mondays and Thursdays live on the Action Network YouTube page. Subscribe, hit the like button. Tell a homie to tell a friend, pass the link along to everybody. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sports books. And of course, if I'm talking BetMGM, I got to plug the North Carolina on that side. Buckets is presented by North Carolina's newest sportsbook, BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we got a lot to talk about here on this Monday night. We'll be doing this, like I mentioned, every Monday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern as we start to roll here through the NBA playoffs, close up the season. We'll be talking a lot of ball live. And of course, you can find us everywhere you find podcasts. All right, let's introduce the boys. Andrew O'Connor Watts, you know him. He's in the library. He's in the lab going through things right now. AOW is with me. What's up, AO?
How you doing, Sean? Doing well.
You already know. Jay Money is Money, the man, the myth, the legend himself. He's here on that man. Once they told me I was going to be on live on Monday, I said, okay, Jay Money's going to be in the building. So we're going to get it going. We got a lot to talk about. Some really interesting news out here in the streets of the NBA. Jontay got himself into a little bit of a pickle potentially with the league. He is working through some allegations that potentially some alarm bells were ringing for Jontay Porter of the Toronto Raptors. There's a story out on actionnetwork.com written by Matt Moore. Go check that out. But if you've been under a rock and haven't found out what's going on there, we're going to talk about Jontay and potentially some unusual activity on some player props that involve him, some unders. Big story there. We'll talk about that really quick. Celtics blow a 30-point lead. Are the Bucks closer than we think? Are they priced correctly? We'll talk about that. Suns take a L to start a brutal stretch. Best bets for Tuesday. All right, let's jump into this Jontay Porter investigation. Matt Moore wrote an article. Go check it out on actionnetwork.com. Essentially, Jontay Porter is being investigated for some unusual activity on some player props he had throughout the month of March. There is potentially some $10,000 to $20,000 wagers that were attempted on unders of his. Typically sports books, depending on the player, you have to be a huge whale to get these types of big clearance numbers. But $10,000 to $20,000 was tried to bet on some under props for Jontay. Then they were flagged. Things are under investigation. I don't want to get too crazy into the details on what's going on with that, but I do want to bring in AOW, Andrew O'Connor Watts, to talk about it. Any thoughts overall on the Jontay story because we're starting to stack up a lot of stories in the last, I would say, 2 weeks, with Halliburton coming out and saying he's just a prop to a lot of people. We know what's going on with Shohei Ohtani on the baseball side. Now we have a alleged potential player that is involved with his own player props under investigation. Any thoughts, AOW, initially on that investigation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just bummed because I had under 0.5 Jontay Porter investigations as a prop myself, so that didn't cash, unfortunately. But no, yeah, I mean, it really feels like it's entering the betting aspect. Really feels like it's entering the regular everyday space in the conversation, at least not in terms of shenanigans, but now with the Shohei thing with Jontay, it's starting to be a very real kind of presence that, it's funny. We talk about this stuff every day. I think about it every day. I know you guys do too. To have people that aren't really betting related now be so intimately involved in this kind of thing, it is an interesting shift that we're seeing. And like you said, we don't want to get too far into it because we don't know all the details, but yeah, it definitely is. It's I'll be interested to see where this goes from here for sure.
Yeah, J Money, irregularities on props on prop betting involving him. Overall, I think the biggest takeaway here is with the sports book that I guess brought this to attention was DraftKings. They're a league partner, and there's, I guess, safeguards in place when there is unusual activity surrounding a game, a player, prop, any type of play that seems irregular. It's flagged. That's exactly what happened here. Now the NBA is doing their due diligence and doing their investigation. That is the positive thing here overall, because as sports bettors, fellas, we want this stuff to be legal. We want it to be as easily accessible as possible. J Money, any thoughts?
Not really many thoughts for me. I just don't really like the fact that ever since everything's been like going mainstream over like the last 3 years, just betting as a whole has just been a lot different. So I'm kind of a fan of the old days. I like when things were kind of like under the radar before like all of these states are making it legal. So let's have fun. Let's get used to it. Let's just put it like that. It's going to be plenty of things. Not gonna say necessarily like this, but we're in we're made this bed. We all asked to get it legalized, and now we got to lay in it. So that's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, go check out the article on Action Network written by Matt Moore. He lays it out. There was a big report from David Purdom of ESPN as well that laid out the story. Go check that out. All right, boys. Let's talk about the hoops now. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics, who, listen, we know that they cannot answer any questions that we have about them during the regular season. No one wants to hear about how they're rolling through people in the regular season. Now, if you have been backing them, fellas, as of late, they have been cruising. I tweeted out earlier, last 17 games before, of course, blowing this big lead tonight to Atlanta. 14-3 against the spread, 7 wins by 25 plus points, 2 wins by 50 plus. They've been covering the number. J Money, I'm coming right back to you. Like I said, I know they can't answer any questions during the regular season, but they had another struggle to close the game on offense, specifically against the Atlanta Hawks here. Is the East correctly priced, and is Milwaukee closer than maybe the price for them to win the East is laid out today?
Yeah, Milwaukee could be close. I hear a lot of people talk about like value. The Bucks could be like plus 2,000 to win the East. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter about value. So I'm a type of guy that's like, what's gonna win? See what I'm saying? I still don't think anybody's touching the Celtics. I'm not overreacting from one game. They were up 30. They end up losing the game. They're still gonna win 65 games this year. We still haven't seen a team this good since like the 2017 Warriors. So I'm not worried about the Celtics whatsoever. It's one game. This is what these players do, man. They're soft these days. So they have no heart. They have no grit. Like they get up by 30 and they think that the game is over. And that's exactly what they did. The Hawks came back out there and punched them in the mouth. I'm glad the Celtics lost. They need those type of haymakers every once in a while just to remind like that they can lose any game. You see what I'm saying? So they'll probably come back versus Atlanta next game and smoke them by 30 points. So not worried about the Celtics whatsoever. I do think the Bucks are close to them, but no matter what the price is, I don't think it'll matter because I do think they'll lose to the Celtics in a 7-game series.
ALW, Frank Madden tweeted out something interesting that, of course, people have been waiting for Chris Middleton to come back. He is now back in the fold. And out of 198 trios, 3 players with 600 plus minutes, the Bucks are number 1 in offense and number 1 in net rating, top 10% in defense, 125.9 offensive rating with Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Dame Lillard in the lineup, 107.9 on the defensive rating. That nets out to an 18 net rating. AOW, any thoughts on Boston blowing the lead? They're allowed to lose a game here and there, just like Jay said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess my question would be if they were coming out and just blowing teams out, not ever letting off the gas, we saw Jason Tatum be, clutch in the fourth quarter, but we're still talking about a game in March. Would that change anything for you? Like to be like, oh, I believe in them now. I don't think it would, right? So why is it the other way? We know they can get to the finals. We know they can get to the Eastern. Know they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals. We know they can get to the finals. So why would that shift us too much? Obviously, it's concerning, but to Jay's point, like we as bettors need to not overreact to too much going on, especially on March 25th, right? I mean, the Hawks they're lucky to be sniffing the play-in right now. I mean, they've been the worst cover in the league. I mean, I don't blame them for letting off the gas. Like I mean, like no Trae Young, like who cares? Like I'm not breaking. I get it, man. Like I'm not breaking an ankle just for the Hawks. It's almost April, so I think it kind of is it's a one-way street, and it should be a two-way street, right? If they were crushing teams right now, we'd probably be saying something like, oh, they should rest guys. They should get ready for the playoffs.
No. This is the thing. They have been crushing everybody. That is the thing. They have been rolling. They have been crushing everybody. So, yeah, I agree. Like, look.
No, totally.
They blew a game in Atlanta on a Monday. They were up 30 and took their foot off the gas. I think the big question everybody's worried about is we got blessed, essentially, with a late game situation with Jason Tatum and the Celtics. And those are the things we want to see, right? All these nights of them winning by 30 points, we don't get to that question that we have about Boston isn't answered. We know they can blow people out, but when shit gets tight, how are they going to react? And it seems like every time things get tight, no matter if it's blowing a 30-point lead, that's when we have the questions, because typically they are not answered. Is that fair, ALW?
That is fair. It is. I guess we don't notice it though when they don't blow the leads, I guess is kind of my point. It's like it's very noticeable when they do it because it's concerning, but we don't notice it when, I mean, I guess we do. You just said they're blowing teams out, but all that really matters, like you said, the questions have to be answered in the playoffs. So we're not really going to learn anything until we get there. To your point about the Bucks and that lineup, I do think that is significant because the Bucks haven't really had that trio. I mean, we know that they haven't had that trio until this season. Obviously, Dame just got here this season. But even the last half of last season, Middleton barely played, and he wasn't really himself when he did play. So he's always kind of been the key for me, is like, if he's your third best guy and he's playing at the level that we know he can, the Bucks are going to be dangerous. I still agree with Jay. I still have the Celtics before them, but having Chris back is huge, and I think it could be definitely a factor if that three can stay healthy.
Before we move on, go ahead, Jay.
One last point. The Celtics have just kind of been messing around. Like A.O. White said, they're not trying to get injured right now. They're focused on the championship, and they weren't full squad as well. They were without Derek White tonight, Tillman, which Tillman doesn't really matter, but they were without Derek White and Drew Holiday. So maybe if they were full squad and blew this lead, maybe I'd be a tad worried. But just remember that they're not even playing their full squad like these last 4 or 5 games. They're just kind of just messing around, still winning games, just kind of messing around, just waiting until the playoffs start.
And I agree 100%. I'm on wax on multiple occasions saying Derek White is their most important player coming down the stretch. When Derek White's on the floor, they're a completely different team. He relieves a lot of different pain points for them when he has the rock. And I'll say this before we move on to Phoenix really quick. I printed my Boston Celtics to win the East ticket -110. That was the stand for me. I don't see it going I don't see it getting any shorter than that. I only see it getting longer. I bet that like last week. So I'm on record. That's it right there. Probably my second largest wager of the NBA season. I put on the Boston Celtics to win the East at -110. So that's how I feel about Boston and the East. All right. J Money is money. The Phoenix Suns, in a game that they're essentially in a lot of must-win type of situations here, as we come down the stretch for them to try to make the playoffs. They lose a game in San Antonio without Victor Wembanyama on the floor. J Money, here are the next 10 games for the Phoenix Suns. In Denver, in Oklahoma City, in New Orleans, at home against Cleveland, Minnesota, New Orleans again, Then they play the Clippers at home. Then they close the year 3 straight road games at the Clippers, at Sacramento, at Minnesota. I mean, it doesn't get any tougher than that. Where are you at on the Phoenix Suns?
Once again, classic look ahead spot. They have the Nuggets on deck in Denver. Obviously, that's a game that they're going to get up for. Once again, these players do not have any heart or grit whatsoever. When you see Wemby out, you automatically come out like, oh, first off, they just beat this team by almost 30 points. And then no Wemby. So it's like, oh, okay, well, the game's going to be easy. And that's just how the NBA players are built these days. I promise you this. In the last, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, things like this would very rarely happen. This just started happening 2 or 3 years ago, where teams like with their best players out, and I mean we see it all the time. Best players out, oh, let's take our foot off the gas. Let's not give 100%. Now, even though you should be going for every win, that's just not how these NBA players are built anymore. So I do think that it was a prime look ahead spot. And once again, I'm glad that they took the loss. Hopefully that they can learn from it, and try not to look at past teams next time. But I do take it as a major look ahead spot to the Denver Nuggets. Obviously they got kicked out of the playoffs versus the Nuggets last year. Obviously they're the reigning champs. When I feel like as soon as Wemby went out, they were probably already looking ahead to the Nuggets game, especially after winning by 30 as well. So, but I can't say I didn't watch the game, so I can't speak too much on it. I know Kevin Durant didn't come out until like he didn't start the second half or something like that. But yeah, I mean the game got close and ended up losing outright. They deserve to.
AOW, it's tight. Sacramento right now, as we record this, is up 12 against the Philadelphia 76ers, but they're locked in the 6. But them, Dallas, and Phoenix are all tied. Dallas and Sacramento here play tomorrow, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, they're all 8.5 back right now, all either tied with Phoenix that has a game in hand because they just finished, but they have an extra loss compared to Sacramento and Dallas, both at 41 and 29.
Yeah, I mean, of those 3 teams, I'm Dallas all the way. Of those 3, Sac, I think I will say Sacramento has improved their defense a lot. We've always we've talked about we've talked about them being a good defensive team on the road and a bad defensive team at home. I mean, let me change that. They've been better on the road and bad at home. They're still, I think, middle of the pack on the road, but those are a good thing. I mean, you got to have a better defense. You have to at least have an average defense in order to do some damage in the playoffs. I'm pretty low on Phoenix and Sacramento. I think Dallas is pretty live to do some damage in the playoffs. I mean, I know they have defensive questions as well, but they've been playing great lately. Phoenix to me has just always been the same issue. Is like, if those dudes can stay healthy, then they have a shot. I never thought that they were going to be able to stay healthy enough to make anything happen, really. They have one of the tougher schedule. As to your point, you pointed out their schedule. That's incredibly huge. I'm curious, do you know offhand what their to miss the playoffs would be? Because if they get stuck in that play-in, that could be interesting. I mean, it's probably priced in right now, but that strength of schedule, I think, I don't know, that could be a good look for Suns to miss. I know some of the other action guys were on that. I believe Jim Turvey and Brandon Anderson maybe were on that preseason even. So I would be interested to see what that's at right now.
Yeah, I think to make the playoffs is down just because the games are going on. But
okay. Yeah.
I think between, I'm with you. I like Dallas out of those 3. I actually like Phoenix more than I like the Kings if it really got down to it in a play-in type of situation. But
me too.
Either way it goes, there's 9, 10. If you want to add Houston now, there's 11 teams that could really shake up the West. So at least in that middle tier, that 5 to 10 range. So it's going to be very interesting for Phoenix coming down the stretch. J Money, any more thoughts before we get out of here and give our best bets for tomorrow?
No more thoughts for me. I'm ready to talk some picks.
All right, let's do it. Appreciate everybody for joining the live stream. Remember, Mondays and Thursdays, 11 p.m. Action Network or the youtube.com/Action Network. Subscribe. Tell a homie to tell a friend. J Money is on every Monday. I am on Thursdays, rotating with some folks. Keep your ears open, eyes peeled for the Jontay Porter story. See where that investigation nets out, because I'll close it on this. Everything around the sports betting space as of late has been pretty negative overall when it comes to just media attention. And that's not something that we want as sports bettors, because we do put a lot of time, we put a lot of grind, and there's money to be made out here if you go about it the right way. We're not telling people to fix games and do that type of shit. Are people looking for the easy way out? Sure. But I think there's some honest grinding going on in the sports betting space. So to see all the negative stuff is a little disheartening. We'll see what shakes on the Jontay situation and what type of iron fist comes down from the league. All right. What's good, my people? Welcome into Buckets, Action Network's daily NBA betting podcast. We're in the workshop Tuesday, NBA slate, and I got two dogs with me, sharp dogs. AOW, Andrew O'Connor Watts, and J Money is Money. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. You know the deal. We give the cap, we give the game, we give the cap, we get you guys out of here in a hurry. Go download the Action Network app ASAP. Sweet 16 is here for the tournament. The women's tournament is rolling. Tons of information across the board everywhere. Baseball is around the corner. Just tons of stuff. If you're not in the Action Network app, I don't know what you're doing. Go download that ASAP. All right. J Money is Money. Give me your best bet for the Tuesday NBA slate.
I'll take the Milwaukee Bucks -8.
AOW, give me your best bet for the Tuesday NBA slate.
Got the Dallas Mavericks +1.5.
I'm going to go Oklahoma City Thunder -1. All right, J Money, I'm coming right back to you. The Milwaukee Bucks are putting it together. We kind of just talked about it on the live stream. If you missed that, make sure you tune in Mondays and Thursdays, 11 p.m. Eastern. We're recapping the night and giving out best bets live on youtube.com/Action Network. J Money is Money, laying the 8 with the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Lakers. Tell me why.
Yeah, I like the Bucks in this spot. They did lose to the Lakers in their last matchup on March 8th. That was when I believe it was like Giannis' first game back. But the Bucks are finna be on this revenge tour, man. I think they finna start smacking teams up. The Lakers have not been playing many road games. They've had a very favorable schedule over their last 10, 11 games. This is only their second road game in their last 11 games. They're only 13-19 against the spread on the road as well. That's the 5th worst ATS record on the road in the NBA. Bucks are getting better. They're getting healthier. 4-1 straight up and against the spread last 5 games, 5-2 straight up and against the spread last 7 games. The Lakers play 8 of their last 11 games on the road. I do believe that they take a slide here. So did jump on the Bucks early, but I still lay the 8 with them as well. I like the Bucks by double digits in this particular spot.
AOW, I tend to agree with J Money that it looks like they're going to try to prove some points here coming down the stretch with 3 of their guys healthy and start to put something together before they head into the playoffs. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's the Bucks or nothing for me. With the Lakers off that Pacers kind of barn burner, it was like 150 to 145. Can only look to the Bucks. They've been rolling. I've talked about a little bit, in my writing about the officiating change and how that's benefited teams that don't rely on that free throw rate. Weirdly, the Bucks have a high free throw rate on offense, but they have been the best team against the spread since that officiating change. So they have figured out how to weather the storm despite that being part of their identity. And I think it's a good sign for them in the playoffs as well. As you mentioned, we talked about it in the live section, but having that ability to not rely on getting to the line and still being able to cover, win is huge for the playoffs. So, and especially in this particular spot against the Lakers, who they lost to last game.
Yeah, let me be careful before I say what I really want to say about the Lakers, because I think overall they just don't have enough. They haven't played that well the entire season, and we are biting our tongue about actually talking about how bad the Lakers have been out of pure respect for LeBron James. I think that is the narrative out there. And that's like, you know what? I'll speak for myself. The reason I haven't said I think the Lakers are trash is because purely out of respect for LeBron James. I think the coaching is lacking. I know Anthony Davis has been out there. He's been playing really well, and he's been actually playing all season long. So I love that about the squad. But overall, LeBron is starting to run out of gas, and no one really wants to say that. And when he runs out of gas, the entire team is going to run out of gas. I just don't think overall they're that good of a basketball team. As Jay alluded to, they've been playing a ton of games at home. The last time the Lakers had a quality win on the road, let's see. I mean, if you want to call the Clippers game a road game, that was February 28th. They won that game 116-112 as Jay Money laughs. Okay, Utah Jazz isn't a quality road victory. At Charlotte, okay, at the New York Knicks, February 3rd, and they went back-to-back. February 1st at Boston, February 3rd, New York Knicks. That's almost 2 months ago, fellas. That's the last time the Los Angeles Lakers have had a quality road win. I don't see why they go to Milwaukee and get a win here as they start a 6-game stretch. They go Milwaukee, at Memphis, at Indiana, at Brooklyn, at Toronto, at Washington. So it gets a little softer after Milwaukee, but primetime game, I agree with Jay wholeheartedly that the Lakers flat out don't have enough, and Milwaukee is going to be on a little bit of a similarly to what the Nuggets did coming out of the break. I think that's what Milwaukee's going to try to do to close the year and get a lot of minutes under the belt with the big trio playing some of their best ball and feeling good going into the playoffs. Unlike last year when they kind of stumbled in, thought they were just going to beat up on Miami without Giannis, and Giannis was taking probably games off that he could have played, and then that woke him up. So I think they learned from that, and they're trying to put together a run here to close the year. Jay, any thoughts before we move on?
No thoughts from me. I broke it down. I gave you all my notes. I like the
Okay.
I like the Bucks here by double digits.
Okay, for sure.
One thing I do want to add, so to that free throw rate point, the officiating difference that I'm talking about, they've been calling fewer fouls at the rim, right? So, and the free throw rate in particular has affected the Lakers since then. They're a team that has consciously relied on free throw rate on offense and not fouling on defense. So in particular, that is something that's affected them, and they have not looked great since then. They're just 9-9 ATS since that change on around February 9th is that demarcation.
All right. AOW, talk to me about the Dallas Mavericks. You like them overall in the West out of that three-team bunch of the Mavericks, Suns, and the Kings. Why do you like them in this spot?
Well, they're going up against the Kings, one of those 3 teams, and they're going up against the Kings at home, where the Kings have struggled. They've just 13-20 ATS at home, and it's a bad rest spot for the Kings. They're playing their 3rd game in 4 nights, 4th in 6, and 5th in 7. So if you just look at teams that have played 5 games in 7 nights, I'm talking just like no other context, just 5th and 7. They're if you fade those teams, that's 16-14-1 ATS this season, and 65, 57, and 3 since the bubble. And that's like I'm saying, no other context. Like the other team could be crazy depleted, no players, we don't know. That's just straight up, that is the record of that 5th and 7 nights. It's a bad rest spot. Sac is on a back-to-back, so is Dallas, and they do have to travel from Dallas does have to travel to Sacramento, but they've been playing really good ball lately. They're 7-1 ATS their last 8 games. In that stretch, they're 3rd in net rating at plus 10.3, 10th in effective field goal percentage. They've just been crushing. And I will say, being on a back-to-back, you want to I like to wait on the injury reports with this kind of stuff, man. The way that I cap games now, I've been burned so many times. I just wait it out. Man. I don't care. I want to know who's playing. I trust myself knowing who's playing. I don't trust myself to be able to read and guess who I think is going to play. I don't have that info. What I do have is how I'm able to cap given how, who I know is playing. So, the Mavericks are 3-6 without Luka, 11-11 without Kyrie this season. I will probably still, it is such a bad rest spot. I will still like it if those guys are out. Well, maybe not both, but if one of them is out, I will probably still like it based on the line change. But I want to know, and I want that line to be there. They're also, one thing I will say, they're a great second half team on the road. So if you want to wait it out fully, even more once game starts, go ahead and bet them at halftime, and yeah, watch the checks cash, because like I said, bad rest spot, great second half team on the road. Give me the Mavericks plus 1.5.
Yeah, as we sit here, record this on Monday night, 11:30 Eastern, Dallas and Sacramento. The injury report has not been submitted. They just are closing up games here on the slate. J Money is money. Any thoughts on this? Is a really fun matchup, probably the best matchup of the 4-game slate tomorrow.
I mean, I wouldn't say the best matchup because we have another game that's like a really great game, the game that you're going to talk about, Sean. But as I would famously say, A.O. Watts, I could not talk you off here. I do think it's a total mouse spot here. I would like to know, though, A.O. Watts, what's the straight up numbers? Because this isn't against, usually when it's fifth game and 7 nights, they really tax the team that's in the fifth game and 7 night spots, which the Kings are. I'm not worried about the Mavs resting anybody because they just had 3 days off before this Jazz game here. So I would like to know if you could get the numbers real fast for me while I talk about this game. Let us know what the straight up numbers are for that team that's in the fifth game of 7 nights, because I don't think ATS matters here since the fact that the Kings are actually favored here. You see what I'm saying? They have to win the game. But go ahead.
Let me check. I got to look it up. So you guys
Okay.
talk about it. I'm going to look it up right now.
Yeah, it's a Mavs spot. They lost both games already to Sacramento this year. So this is a revenge. This is a double revenge game spot as well. Both of the games are at the house, and he laid it out. I mean, it's real simple. Back to back, third game in 4 nights. Coming back from an East Coast road trip as well. They're playing right now. So this kind of evens the things up. The fact that the Mavs have to fly in here because when their game ended, Kings game was at the halftime, so they don't have to travel anywhere. But it's just a brutal spot coming back home. 3-game East Coast road trip, and then you got to play a back to back as well. And the Mavs have revenge, and I already think that they're the better team as well. I was trying to watch the rest of the Mavs game just to make sure nobody got injured. Got to look at the numbers and stuff like that as well. Obviously, Kyrie is dealing with Ramadan and things like that, but I think this is a total Mavs spot. I don't really agree with them being underdogs here. If this wasn't a spot where the Mavs are on a back-to-back from altitude, I'd be all over the Mavs in this spot. But it's still Mavs are nothing for me, and I do think that they are the better team versus the Kings. It's the big game for playoff implications, all the good stuff. Mavs have the advantage down. I know Sabonis is a baller, but Kings don't really have a backup center. When Lively and Gafford are in the game, I do think they have a major advantage here. You just need the Mavs to make some shots in this one. As long as they can knock down some threes and Luka can get cooking in this one and Kyrie can get cooking as well, get my guys some water out there. I think the Mavs should come out with the win in this one, but they also play, again, their next matchup versus Sacramento as well. So could be a spot where we take the Mavs, and if they just so happen not to get it done, then we double up on them in the next game. But I do feel like this is a total Mavs spot here, especially with their additions at the trade deadline.
Sacramento 6-6 ATS on no rest. That's what they'll be up against at home versus the Dallas Mavericks. AOW, were you able to find those numbers? If not, we'll come back to it. Don't trip.
I believe I did, and the numbers are no, I didn't. Hold on, give me one more second.
Okay, for sure. But Jay, is the Kings, okay, I'll say this for me. The Kings are one of the hardest teams to figure out in the NBA for a couple reasons. 2, they rely so much on Domantas Sabonis on the glass and to facilitate. I've seen De'Aaron Fox fluctuate, scoring the rock throughout the year, which has been kind of mind-boggling. They had a couple games in a row in February. They lost by double digits to the Pistons, and the very next night beat Denver by 29. So they have a couple. They have 2 different ways they go about playing ball, and it's just hard to peg. This time of year in the NBA, honestly, is extremely difficult to handicap. Okay. It's just probably the hardest time of the year. And as we get into the playoffs here, if you feel like you don't have a beat on the board or not seeing the board very clearly, don't press. Wait until the playoffs and things get solidified a bit more and some motivational spots here open up. But Yeah, it's a very tough spot to handicap the NBA at the moment.
It's a fact.
So real quick, so I've just found it. Last 2 years, 30 and 34 on the money line, but that's 6.7% ROI if you just blindly bet the team, if you faded that team in the 5th and 7th spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, rest is important. It's tough.
And I mean, a lot of those include like, double digit favorites or double digit dogs, right? So I think even though it's less than 50%, we're not, a lot of those are probably pick'ems or whatever, as close of a line as this game is. So yeah, the ROI I think is a little more important than in this case.
All right, let's move over to the final play. That's mine. Oklahoma City Thunder -1 playing the Pelicans in New Orleans. All right, J Money, this is you're right. This is the best game on the board. This is the game. This is the game. This is the one. That's the fact. Yeah, this is the best game on the board. And initially, first of all, I want to be clear. This is going to be a smaller play for me. The slate was pretty tough for me. It was either Milwaukee laying the big number versus the Lakers, who I just think we continue to just give them credit when we shouldn't, and the Milwaukee starting to put it together a little bit, or it was going to be Oklahoma City, essentially a money line coming off their worst game of the year. And my favorite spot is fading the team coming back home after a little road trip, and that's exactly what's going on here with the Pelicans. A little 4-game road trip. They're finally back at home, and the first game they have to play is against a team in Oklahoma City that has to keep up with Denver if they want to. If Shea wants that MVP, which he has verbally said that he is interested and does want to have that on the mantle, if he wants them to be, for him to have any shot at that, they have to be the one in the West. They have to keep pace with Denver, who is not losing ball games. Flat out, they are winning every other night, and they're coming off their worst loss of the year, where Oklahoma City just didn't have it against Milwaukee. That's the easiest way to put it. They just didn't have it. They couldn't get anything going, and that's what happens in the NBA. When you don't have it, you get blown out, especially against one of the better teams in the league. I think they're going to not come home, but go to New Orleans and bounce back here in a team that they're pretty similar. Defensively, they play really well, and they have knockdown shooters that can get it done. No BI here for New Orleans. Zion, in the last game they played, Thunder got the W, but Zion didn't play. So you could throw that game out. It's a completely different team. I just think in a very tight game, I'll take the team that's coming off their worst loss of the season that has to keep up with the Denver Nuggets and the team that's getting back home after a little road trip. We know the deal, J Money. You got to walk the dog. You got to go see the lady. You got to go pick up the dry cleaning. And then next thing you know, Lou Dort's picking you up at half. And it's like, oh no, we're down 12 points. And Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is tucking us away here, because I could see this being a potential bit of a flat spot coming home after how well of a road trip and how well of a last month that the Pelicans have had. I'll give the little extra motivation edge to Oklahoma City, keeping up here with Denver and coming off their worst L of the year. So I'll take the Oklahoma City Thunder -1. AOW, any thoughts?
Yeah, this is a great spot for the Thunder. I was actually looking at this for my potential best bet. The only thing that took me off of them as my best bet was just kind of the free throw discrepancy, that officiating change that I mentioned. The Thunder are at 11th in free throw rate on offense, and they, since that change, are just 22nd in spread differential. So that just kind of made it not a best bet. I still will probably bet them, and but I'm going to probably just wait it out, see if there's any wonky injury thing. I don't think there will be, but man, I'm just like traumatized now, dude. I gotta wait till the last minute. It is crazy. I can't even tell you. I've been burned on both ends of that, where it's like I bet the team and then the other team's best player's out, and I'm like, oh great, awesome, and then they get blown out anyways. It's crazy. It just doesn't matter. Like anyways. All right, moving on. So it's a great spot for the.
That never used to happen, bro. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so what I will say too, this is another spot where you could wait potentially or double down at halftime because of that bad rest spot. the Thunder, the Pels playing their 4th game in 6 nights, and that coming home off the long road trip. The Pels are a great first half team. I could see it being close at half. The Thunder in the second half are 37, 22, and 11 against the spread this season, and 122 and 85 and 27 since the 2021-22 season. So they've just been like a dominant second half team for under Dagnall pretty much. I would, if you want, you could double down at half or just wait and take the Thunder at half and lean into that bad rest spot for the Pelicans.
Yeah, J Money, AOW laid it out. That's a great point. I think if the Oklahoma City Thunder can fade that first half from the Pelicans, that has been an absolute ATM for everyone all year long. They've been jumping out all over folks in the first 24 minutes. If they can catch them in this little sleepy spot coming back home from the trip with Oklahoma City bouncing back, then close the game like they've been closing the game strong all year. It only makes me like the Thunder more.
Yeah, it's a tough game for me. I like what you said about SGA, which he has been slowing down. He only had 12 points last game. I do need the Thunder to get the number 1 seed because I need SGA to win the MVP. So these are the type of games that I'll stay off of. I'll tell you straight up, I think the Pelicans are the better team, and I think Zion is an absolute nightmare for the Oklahoma City Thunder. If Zion was out, I'd be all over Thunder. Like, I'd lay 5 points with the Thunder here, even on the road, if Zion went in this game. I don't think he's lost. I don't think it's crazy stat. I don't think Zion Williamson has ever lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder while he's playing. It might be 1 or 2, but my guy does not lose. He's only played in 2 matchups in their last 10, but it just seems like he never loses versus the Thunder. He's just an absolute nightmare. Before I would bet the side here, I just look at Zion props over his PRA or something. I just think it's a perfect matchup for him. No BI, so he's going to be handling the ball even more. It is the 4th game in 6 nights for the Pelicans. It's a for me. The Pelicans did lose earlier this year, 107-83 at the house without Zion as well. I just feel like Zion is just he's just a nightmare matchup for the Thunder here. So it's a great game. I'd love to watch it, but I'd probably just focus in on Zion's prop here. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunder won. They're coming off a 25-point loss. They do need this game if they're going to get the number 1 seed. I need SGA to score 50 points in this game. See a 50-point triple-double. Come on, SGA, because he's sliding. He's like plus 700 or something now for MVP, man. So I don't like to see that, but I still think he has an outside chance. So I'm just going to stay off this game, and I hope that the Thunder win. But if the Pelicans did win, I'm not going to lie to you, I wouldn't be surprised. This team has not really had a lot of letdowns. This isn't the Pelicans team from last year. Whoever's in front of them, they're lining their ass up and they're smoking them. And the defense has been absolutely outstanding. So it's a really great game to watch, in my opinion. I can see it going either way.
Yeah, if you want to have fun, go watch Zion Williamson versus the Detroit Pistons last game out. He was 13-14 from the floor. It's one of the easiest basketball games you've ever seen in a professional setting in the NBA is what Zion Williamson had against the Detroit Pistons. All right, to recap, J Money is on the Milwaukee Bucks minus the 8. AOW Andrew O'Connor Watts is on the Dallas Mavericks plus 1.5. Try to get the best number you can. I am on the Thunder -1 versus the Pelicans. For J Money is money. For Andrew O'Connor Watts, I am your host, Sean Little. We are presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page, youtube.com/Action Network. Buckets is live. The video is on there every single day. Go subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Until next time, aka tomorrow, get buckets, baby. Let's cash some tickets.